What would happen if two of the cutest puffballs in gaming went toe-to-toe in a battle to determine who would come out on top? I'm Ink, and this is Smash Bracket, a show dedicated to solving that exact question. If each playable character from the Super Smash Bros. Series was entered into a giant fighting tournament using them at the peak of their strength, who would be victorious? The rules for this series are on screen now, with a link for a further breakdown in the description. With all that in place, let's take a look at today's match between Jigglypuff and Kirby to see who will advance on to the next round and who will be disqualified. Let's get into it.
Jigglypuff.
In the world of Pokemon, when a child turns 10 years old, they have a chance to obtain their trainer's license and get a Pokemon all of their own. When I was a kid, I used to dream about all the possibilities of different Pokemon I could get. A fearsome Charizard, an unbeatable Mewtwo, and there were even a few years where Farfetch'd was my dream Pokemon for some reason that I couldn't explain even if I tried. But when I sat down and played Super Smash Bros. 64 for the very first time, I was greeted by the pink round face of the sassiest Pokemon in the franchise. Jigglypuff has been a fan favorite in the world of Pokemon for decades, largely due to her role in the anime. And although she stands at only 20 inches tall, Jigglypuff is bursting with enough sass to more than compensate for her height. She loves attention, sings everywhere she goes, is prone to overdramatic fits of rage when people fail to appreciate her, and gets on the nerves of all of her friends. Yet, for some reason, they chose to title her the Balloon Pokemon rather than the high school drama student Pokemon. The Pokemon franchise is unique in the way that it was created. The anime, manga, and video games were all made to bring people to the same exact world of Pokemon, and were tied to a single marketing push for one cohesive world. So while the canon of these different mediums have gradually departed from one another, we've chosen to look at all three of them together for the purposes of Smash Bracket. If we were to only use the games, anime, or manga by themselves, we would get some really strange interpretations of the characters, with some really bizarre power scaling that I don't think feels representative of what we actually see when looking at the franchise as a whole. On a similar note, because Smash Bracket is interested in seeing what each character is capable of at their maximum strength, Pokemon will be treated as trainer-owned and optimized, meaning they'll be fully leveled with access to their entire move pool, and will be given access to one item by their trainers. This relationship between human and Pokemon is so critical to the maximum potential and strength of Pokemon, and it's so integral to the series that we felt as though not allowing access to trainers would be denying a key part of the series. Not to mention, many of the Pokemon in Smash actually come out of Pokeballs when they enter the stage, implying a pre-existing relationship between Pokemon and their trainers rather than just wild Pokemon. And it's under the tutelage of a trainer like this that Jigglypuff's true potential comes out. She's physically strong enough to break boulders and slap these two Pokemon hard enough to send them flying through the air. By measuring this distance and accounting for the weight of these two Pokemon, Arbok and Victory Bell, we can find that this casual slap would require the energy equivalent of around a gram of TNT. Like many other Pokemon though, Jigglypuff is deceptively fast. She can dash through water fast enough to traumatize both of us, and leave a huge blast of water in her wake. She's also quick enough to do this. Wait, what even just happened there? Alright, so she sneaks up behind Pikachu, gives him a Muay Thai round kick to the face, sends him flying to the side, and then gets back to Misty's side before anyone can tell what she was doing, including Pikachu, who she just kicked? Okay, alright, whatever you say, Nintendo. But what's even more impressive than this clip is where she narrowly dodges a bolt of natural lightning. It's important to note that she doesn't actually move in tandem with the lightning here, and it's still much faster than her in this scene. But by measuring Jigglypuff's movement against the amount of time that the lightning bolt remains on screen, we can calculate her speed at nearly 3,000 miles per hour here. Now, does this mean that she's running around at nearly Mach 4? No, probably not. But what it does mean is that she can move in short bursts at incredible speeds, fast enough to keep up with some incredibly quick opponents. Jigglypuff can enhance the speed even further with the item that she'll be holding for this battle, the Quick Claw. This can help her to offset any speed disadvantages she might face by occasionally allowing her to get the first hit, even against opponents who have her drastically outclassed in speed. This thing even works against the fastest Pokemon out there, including Speed Deoxys and Regieleki. This thing! Speaking of Deoxys, Jigglypuff has survived several hits from its attack form. Somehow. That's one of the strongest Pokemon out there. And while this is ambiguous and hard to measure, we can measure some of the Z moves that she's been shown to withstand, such as the move All Out Pummeling. By calculating the diameter of this beam and measuring the violent fragmentation of the animation, we can calculate this coming in at around the equivalent of 270 kilograms of TNT. But beyond her stats, where Jigglypuff really shines is her versatility. She can do way more than she lets on from her Smash Bros. Moveset, and she really shines with her versatility. Her natural ability, Cute Charm, has a 30% chance of making anyone who comes in contact with her fall in love on the spot. While infatuated, enemies have a 50% chance of being entirely immobilized by love and unable to attack. Even if her opponents keep their distance, Jigglypuff can replicate this effect without ever having to touch them with the move Attract. Jigglypuff also has several other ways to weaponize her innate cuteness. Charm lowers the opponent's attack, Fake Tears lowers their special defense, and if I really want my animators to hate me, Jigglypuff can use Draining Kiss, which leeches health from her opponents, or Sweet Kiss, which leaves them confused. Confusion is a dangerous status condition that leaves a 50% chance of her opponent hitting themselves instead of their intended target. This ability to turn an opponent's own power against them can be truly devastating for any character whose attack output exceeds their maximum durability. Outside of just confusion though, Jigglypuff has a few other ways to attack enemies with their own strength, such as Bide or Counter, which allow her to return any damage she takes at double the power. If she were to use Mimic or Copycat, Jigglypuff could temporarily borrow an attack from an enemy to use on her own. Disable, on the other hand, can totally remove that attack from the enemy altogether. Jigglypuff has access to a surprising range of elemental attacks as well, such as Flame Blast, Blizzard, Thunderbolt, or Toxic, which badly poisons an opponent, scaling to their maximum health and exponentially eating away at them. In just a few short turns, Toxic grows enough in power to deal 100% of its target's health in a single hit. Keeping with her theme of the high school drama student Pokemon, she also has several ways to cause pain with nothing but her voice, such as the moves Echoed Voice, Hyper Voice, or Round. Disarming Voice is a verbal abuse that never misses, and Sing makes her opponents fall asleep and allows her to eat at their psyche with Nightmare or Dream Eater. Perish Song, as the name would imply, acts as a Death Note audiobook, and is a death sentence in a matter of seconds for anyone who hears it, including Jigglypuff herself, making this a pretty unviable strategy for a tournament like this. She can also defend herself against devastating blows with moves like Protect or Substitute. She can heal herself with Wish, or by taking a literal power nap with Rest. One might think that Jigglypuff is totally defenseless while sleeping, but she can actually snore so freaking violently that it batters her opponents and causes them to flinch, losing the ability to attack. While asleep, she can also use Sleep Talk, which gives her uncontrolled access to her entire moveset. And fighting in her sleep isn't the only surprising method of attack she has. She can also catch her opponent off guard with attacks like Shadow Ball, Seismic Toss, Psychic, or Grass Knot, which does more damage the heavier her opponent is. Thunder Wave paralyzes her opponent, and Dig tunnels her through the ground, while the Grass-type Solar Beam attack lets her channel a devastating blast of solar energy. Jigglypuff also has a few unexpected ways of manipulating the battlefield to her advantage, such as with Rain Dance, which decreases the power of fire attacks and increases the power of water-based moves. Sunny Day, on the other hand, does the opposite, and also allows her Solar Beam to fire instantaneously rather than taking the time to charge up. Jigs can also send flying opponents shooting back toward the ground with gravity, and she can even teleport. What I'm getting at here is that there is an insane amount of versatility behind this Pokemon, and she's way more than meets the eye. By the time she reaches her maximum level at level 100, Jigglypuff will likely have had hundreds if not thousands of battles. She has a lot of surprising abilities, maneuvers, strategies, and has a ton of battle experience under her belt. So now let's see how she stacks up against her opponent, Kirby.
Kirby!
In the distant parts of the universe, light years away from the planet Earth, rests a solar system filled to the brim with disastrous threats to all life. Intergalactic knights, eldritch gods, fallen angels made entirely of dark matter, and for whatever reason, they are all freaking adorable. But if my experience in high school has taught me anything, it's that sometimes the cutest creatures can also be the ones to make your life the most miserable. These adorable terrors travel the stars, bringing despair to planet after planet. But one weird, brave warrior stands against these nightmarish creatures with overwhelming strength and a voracious appetite. The 8-inch hero named Kirby. Kirby lives in Dreamland on his homeworld Popstar, but outside of that, his backstory is largely unknown. His species, age, and even gender are a complete mystery, although English translations do tend to refer to Kirby as a male. If Kirby had his way, each day would be filled with sleeping and eating cake before battling off intergalactic threats. What a freaking legend, he has his priorities straight. He regularly battles enemies like the greedy King Dedede, the mysterious Meta Knight, and whatever the crap this thing is. Never change, Nintendo. Never change. But out of everyone in his universe, Kirby is perhaps the most deceptively powerful. Within the Kirby franchise, characters show a wide spectrum of power. They've been seen shattering billiard balls, but then they also later go on to kill creatures implied to have the capacity to destroy the entire universe. Time and time again, when looking at the lore of the Kirby franchise, we see Kirby described as someone with incredible, sometimes infinite power. But if we look at what Kirby actually shows on screen during his games, then his maximum strength feats are something like shattering metal crates or knocking large fish-sized enemies into the horizon. So, what gives? Why is there this disconnect if he's supposed to be so powerful? Kirby as a character seems to be designed around the joke of, haha, funny tiny pink ball beat big strong thing, and that's about the level of consistency that we get with his power. The creators just seem to throw whatever creative thing they can think of on screen, and then match Kirby up to it. In order to even get the slightest glance of what Kirby is truly capable of, we need to expand our horizons and look at some of the mini-games within the series. Smash Bracket has very specific rules when it comes to our interpretation and allowance of mini-games. So here's the standard that they'll have to meet in order for us to use them. I'm going to put it on screen right now. Feats from minigames need to be backed up within the lore of the series as being something feasible or possible for the characters to do. And when it comes to Kirby, the in-game lore makes it perfectly clear that Kirby is capable of great power. But we also get this statement from the creators, making it clear that minigames are intended to show the character's potential in non-story situations. So when looking at Kirby's minigames through this lens and matching it up against our criteria, we can narrow down some solid contenders for Kirby's maximum strength. Before we can get meaningful numbers on that though, we need to talk about size. Because contrary to what I've been telling people my entire life, it really does matter. Kirby is consistently described at around 20 centimeters or 8 inches tall. There's a few inconsistencies with this across the series, but in general it holds up enough for us to be confident in using this measurement. The issue comes when we try to measure feats such as the Megaton Punch, which splits his homeworld in half, or feats like when Kirby survives this explosion from his moon, or when he travels across the solar system on his warp star. The scope of all of these feats are incredibly dependent on the size of Kirby's solar system and his planet, which shouldn't be that bad to measure, right? Normally we'd assume things to be the same size as our own solar system, but Kirby games have made a point at representing things as being much smaller than they seem. So we really need some sort of concrete idea here. We could use this cutscene from the game Planet Robobot to compare Kirby's size to the size of the ship Stardream. And then we can use this shot of Stardream chilling on Popstar to get a size for the planet of 20 meters in diameter. Alright, that can't be right. Let's try this. Some people say that Popstar is a similar size to the planet Shiverstar, which a fan theory states is either comparable to Earth or Earth itself. So that should get us a measurement. The issue here is that we never see the two planets side by side, besides this one level select screen that already has a lot of inconsistencies. Not to mention that Shiverstar has never been confirmed to be Earth and only holds visual similarity to Earth. We also have confirmation in the game manuals that Earth already exists somewhere else in the Kirby universe and is light years away from where this is taking place. But even if it was the same size as Earth, we still don't have a good shot comparing Shiverstar to Popstar. The most frustrating thing is that Popstar isn't even consistently referred to as a planet. Sometimes it's referred to as a star, sometimes a planet, sometimes just a world, and even in the same games it's not consistently sized. Now, I've rewritten this part of the script multiple times trying to explain the research team's math behind this in a fun and engaging way, but in the end, I think it's going to be best for me to let it run across the screen while I tell you the two big takeaways here. First off, using the Megaton Punch seems to be the most objective way to measure Popstar's size, while relying on the least amount of headcanon. Our calculations bring in Popstar at around 1,165 miles from end to end, or roughly 1,900 kilometers. Using this size, we can now scale down the size of Popstar's moon to the planet itself for Kirby's best durability feat, which is where he survived an explosion that pulverized a large section of the moon. When adjusting for Kirby's speed in this scene and the new escape velocity of Popstar, and also accounting for the fact that Kirby's actually pretty far away from this moon when it explodes, he's enduring around 22 kilotons of TNT in this scene. Apart from durability though, Kirby has also been able to keep up in combat with some of the best fighters in the galaxy while on his Warp Star, which is his trusty vehicle that can fly between planets in a matter of seconds. Even without the Warp Star though, Kirby is no slowpoke. He was able to reach and fight dark matter while moving through space at over 2,000 miles per hour. So now that we've cleared up all the difficulties that come with the size of Popstar and Kirby's solar system, let's talk about Kirby's strength itself. As mentioned, the 201 Megaton Punch is insanely impressive, but Kirby gets even stronger. In this minigame, which still meets our pre-established standard, Kirby is able to hit an incoming meteor thousands of light years away in a matter of seconds. Along the way, we can see it destroy 9 planets. By using the on-screen light year measurements, we can calculate the width of this final planet to be 334 light years in diameter. The sizing of planets in this series is so pivotal to the strength of its characters, but the series is so inconsistent that there's just so many different power levels that you can take for these characters and back all of them up depending on how you interpret size. If taking this size literally and comparing Kirby's height to the meteor, this puts Kirby's height in at nearly 15 light years tall. I just want to have some consistency for measurements here. But despite its absurdity and implications for Kirby's size, the creators were definitely intending Kirby to be hitting a meteor light years away across the galaxy. In fact, this is one of the only times in the series that we ever get concrete numbers like this. When that's combined with the in-game statements regarding Kirby's strength, this is surprisingly one of the most consistent, objective, and measurable ways to get Kirby's upper limit on his power. But with that, I think we've got most of the craziness behind us. Let's talk about some of Kirby's non-stat related powers. His most recognizable power is his ability to inhale enemies and steal their powers. Kirby can absorb flaming enemies to spit fire, cold enemies to freeze the air, or even use the beam power-up to freeze an opponent in time. Speaking of stopping time, Cook allows Kirby to bring time to a stop as he transmutes nearby enemies and objects into food. That is horrifying, oh my gosh. He can also teleport with the ESP power, and the mirror power allows Kirby to reflect attacks back at the attacker. Should he be backed into a corner, Kirby has a few hidden aces up his sleeve, such as the Friend Heart, a slow-moving heart that instantly pacifies its target upon contact. Kirby can also harness the power of a Miracle Fruit, which massively boosts the potency of his inhale ability. When he consumes one, this gives him access to the Hypernova ability, which removes many of the limits that Kirby normally has when inhaling. He can inhale much larger objects and creatures than normal, he has a vastly increased range on the suction, and the inhale doesn't end after consuming just one item. I could go on and on about all the different abilities that Kirby's gathered over the years, but whether he's absorbing enemies, destroying planets, or having one of the most memorable taunts in all of Smash Bros., Kirby is sure to destroy anyone who gets between himself and his cake. With all that said and done though, it's time for our fight. If you would like to support Smash Bracket, get early access to content and works in progress, and help keep the series alive and going, consider joining us on Patreon or our YouTube membership program. But with that out of the way, let's get to the fight and see who will advance on to the next round of the Smash Bracket and who will be disqualified.
Hey, we should do this again!
Why would you throw something?
And there you go! Now, on paper, this seems like an incredibly one-sided stomp of a match. And if someone were to only look at the stat sheets for each character, then that would be a totally fair assumption to make. Even if Jigglypuff holds a surprising advantage in combat speed before even calculating in stat-boosting moves, Kirby's durability was way above anything that she could put out, and Kirby's attack power was coming in at 4.79 Tenapentafo, which is a number I've never even said before. To put that in context, this is enough power to destroy entire galaxies multiple times over. If you took every single atom in Earth and replaced it with our entire solar system, and then replaced every moon and asteroid in each of those solar systems with something the size of Earth, the energy to destroy all of that would be comparable to the energy that Kirby's outputting with his baseball feet here. And yet, despite that power, I still think that this can be an incredibly close match depending on the context, and that only looking at the stat sheets here is a short-sighted way to view the matchup. Kirby almost never uses his full strength, even when fighting the weakest opponents in the Kirby universe. Based on the destructible objects that Kirby can or can't destroy in a single hit in his game, he operates at a much weaker level in normal gameplay, to the point that it's hard to say that he's even holding back. His normal power levels are just completely incomparable to his maximum output. However, if he were to ever attempt to go all out, or even just use the tiniest fraction of his true power outside of what he normally displays in gameplay, he would be able to instantly destroy Jigglypuff in a single attack. It would even blow through any sort of defense that she could put up, like Protect, Counter, Endure, Focus Sash, etc. But if Kirby didn't go all out before Jigglypuff landed even a single Toxic or Confusion attack, Jigglypuff would almost certainly take the victory. Kirby doesn't have meaningful enough resistance to poison damage in order to withstand Toxic's effects, even when using his poison ability. But the true equalizer here is the incredibly dangerous Confusion status effect. When an enemy hurts himself in Confusion, it's treated as a base power 40 attack in Pokemon. But this power is modified by the target's attack stat. While we're not trying to scale the power of Pokemon moves to actual stats, the important thing to highlight from this is that almost all of the damage is coming from the raw strength of the confused Pokemon, rather than what they were attempting to put into their attacks. Kirby can put out so much more damage than he can take that hurting himself from Confusion even once would have been more than enough to knock him out, and likely even kill him outright. By calculating the probability of Kirby hurting himself in Confusion each turn and then factoring the chance for different lengths of the status effect, we found that Confusion, on its own, every time it's applied, gives Jigglypuff a 75% chance of victory by the time it wears off. Of course, Kirby would also be just about as likely to pulverize the planet accidentally, which wouldn't be too good for Jigglypuff. So if Jigglypuff is faster and has several reliable win conditions, why didn't she take this? Kirby really hasn't ever used his full strength on screen outside of one single context: competitions. And as per the rules of Smash Bracket, characters are aware that they're fighting in a fighting competition. And so Kirby would have absolutely no hesitation to show off his true power and steal the spotlight. Depending on the context, this could be a disturbingly close matchup. But given Kirby's attitude toward competitions, there's almost no doubt that he would pull out all of the stops to get the victory. And in the end, his strength was just far too much to overcome. Kirby is the winner and will be moving on to the next round of the Smash Bracket. Next time on the Smash Bracket.
You two versus Sephiroth.